I hope Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig never stop making Knives Out films because I could watch 1,000 of them. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we're discussing Knives Out 3, which is titled this time around, Wake Up Dead Man. Our favorite detective sifts through a series of suspects at a church when someone turns up dead. Now, I went into this one almost completely blank other than just knowing who the cast was, and besides one asshole on Twitter posting after the premiere something that I will not talk about, but basically did spoil the movie. But even with me being spoiled and that little lingering factor being in the back of my head, I will say I was actually still surprised with the way that it played out. And one of the things that I will equivalent this to is that, like, Dexter, if you're a fan of Dexter season 4 has like a massive twist and very massive thing that happens at the end of that season. I knew what it was. And when I watched the series, I was still shocked when it had happened. And in here, it's kind of the same thing with the twists and turns of how things play out. I was still shocked in the end of the day. And I think that just goes as far to say how good of a director and writer Rian Johnson is, specifically with any sort of storytelling. And Wake Up Dead Man is a very interesting Knives Out film because Knives Out, the first one, I absolutely adore. I really like it. Glass Onion, I was like watching all the marketing, super excited for. Thought it was a little bit predictable, but still ended up loving that movie and what Rian Johnson had to say. And Wake Up Dead Man is not just the most thematically rich film that he's made yet in this franchise, but I honest to God think it is the best Knives Out film yet. It just makes me eager to see more because each and every one of these films develops the main character, Benoit Blanc, in such a unique and awesome way. There's the character in a unique way, but also at the same time developing one of the other side characters that brings him into this mystery. And that's been, for me, one of the things that I've absolutely loved. And I think one way that I can equivalent Wake Up Dead Man is it feels a little bit more like the first Knives Out. So if you were more of a fan of like the template of the first Knives Out, I think you might appreciate this one. But it's a little bit turned and twisted on its head, specifically because you don't really see Benoit Blanc for the first 40 minutes, which is actually really shocking and honestly surprised me at first. More of the fact that I'll say is because I felt that the second film highly developed him to such a high degree where he really felt like he was the main character. Where in Wake Up Dead Man, Josh O'Connor is full and foremost, which Josh O'Connor is very much the main character of this movie. And I didn't know how to feel about that in the first 30 minutes. I was watching this and I was like, this is still an enjoyable Knives Out film, but this might be my least favorite. But this is one of the weird factors, and not a lot of films can pull this off, where each act got better and better. To the point where we segued into the second act, and I absolutely loved how the editing, the first 30, 40 minutes really made sense to how this whole entire story was going to be playing out, how Rian Johnson wanted to deliver some of the clues, some of the aspects to you. And for me, that is why I really love this movie. That is why I think this is the best Knives Out film, because of the way that Rian Johnson decided to structure this one out. And specifically, just very much impressed me in that. And of course, as always, Benoit Blanc always sifts through and tells you how everything kind of plays out. But some of the clues that he kind of goes backwards and shows, like, kind of had me going, oh, how did I not realize that? Also keeps you on your toes at the same time, even though when the most obvious answer is kind of right in front of you. Things like that make me just love these films so much, but Wake Up Dead Man really has that all, but at the same time having a very thematically rich story this time. Not like the other two weren't, but this one specifically really details certain things that I think we start to learn a little bit more about Benoit Blanc, though it's not descriptively said. And I think the reason that we learn more about that is because of Daniel Craig's performance. I think it's a shame that he's never been nominated for this role, because I think as much as I love him as James Bond, in the end of the day, for me personally, this might be the more iconic role for me. Again, when it's all said and done in his career, I genuinely think this is just one of the best cinematic characters we've ever gotten. A character that I love getting and going back to. Thoroughly the way that he plays this character, from all of his mannerisms to just certain things. He makes this dialogue work, even if it is in one of the most serious situations, which I will go as far to say, I do think Wake Up Dead Man is probably the darkest out of all the three Knives Out films. His accent, his crazy dialogue, some of the moments he says Scooby-Dooby-Doo in a very unique way in this movie, and I will never forget it. In fact, I would want that to be my ringtone. That on repeat of the way that he said it. Plays out in such a unique way. And again, I think just the perfection of this character and what Daniel Craig has crafted here, and specifically thanks to Rian Johnson's writing as well, is absolutely an all-timer character. But as I said earlier, Josh O'Connor is the main character here. And I will go as far to say, like, it feels like Benoit Blanc always has, like, a side character to him. Of course, Ana de Armas was the one in the first one. But specifically, Josh O'Connor very much more feels like the Ana de Armas of this role. And I will tell you right now, Josh O'Connor is definitively the best one yet. And also the richest character in the entire franchise. The entire franchise. Josh O'Connor delivers an all-time performance in here, maybe even my favorite performance yet, which is saying a lot because I absolutely loved him in Challengers. Genuinely was shocked by how good he was in this movie. And I don't know why, because he is such a good actor. Just so much to his character and so much that you learn through just dialogue and through moments and through certain things that just come out as Benoit Blanc is solving this mystery. But it was absolutely great, to the point where it actually like overshined any of the other actors in here, to where I don't really think anyone else was truly a standout in my opinion. Actually, like, maybe one of the grievances that I think some people will have with this is that none of the other actors really stand out for the most part. I give a shout out to Glenn Close because I think she does have some pretty damn incredible moments. Josh Brolin is also pretty damn funny in here. When you go down the list of like Mila Kunis, Jeremy Renner, Andrew Scott, Kerry Washington, Kaylee Spaney, Daryl McCormick, there's just not enough there. Like, there is and there isn't. To the point where, like, the mystery does become a little bit hard to solve because giving you a lot of information or a lot of moments with these characters, and all of them do really well for the roles that they're in. I just wish we would have gotten a little bit more time with them. But at the same time, that is kind of a part of the mystery. Is this congregation is actually so secretive. They don't want to share anything about them. They're not as open as, say, the two groups of characters that we had in the previous two films. So do understand that to a certain degree, but I am really impressed with Josh O'Connor in here, and I can't wait to see what he does next. But I think the last thing I really need to touch on in here is just Rian Johnson as a director and writer once again. He just continues to storm away, and as a whole package, Wake Up Dead Man just feels so lived in. And the way that he's kind of slightly changed the mystery genre every single time in terms of like the group of people he's studying. The first film was family. The second film was like a bunch of rich influencers and billionaires and all sorts of things like that. And this film is about religion and a congregation, and the way that he thematically tackles like faith and also mixes that into the look of the film in terms of cinematography and the way that people's beliefs, I actually thought was one of the most richest things that he's done since The Last Jedi, which I know a lot of you guys hate that movie. That's fine to hate it. He did with The Last Jedi in terms of like cinematography and visuals, and also tying that into here. I just don't think we've seen from him lately, and I really loved what he was able to do in here, specifically with like lighting and the way that he like lit for, say, the church. I thought it was like really dynamic, and it added a lot of certain selective things to certain moments. When there's like one moment in particular where I think of where Josh O'Connor and Daniel Craig are on an important call, and Josh O'Connor gets sidelined because he has to do something else on this call instead. And it really showcases him as a character and how different it is and what he's going through. And that conversation shifts almost the entire perspective, to the point where when you get to the final 20 minutes of this movie, Daniel Craig's character, Benoit Blanc, is changed in a lot of different ways. And Rian Johnson does this in such a very minuscule way. But if you're someone who's watched the last two Knives Out movies and going to this one, you see such a character arc for him that I want to continue to see. I want to continue to see this character grow. And that's why a lot of the reason why I think Wake Up Dead Man is the best Knives Out film yet. I mean, that's not hard to say. They just keep getting better and better. Rian Johnson crafts the most thematically rich film in the franchise yet that showcases growth for our favorite detective and makes me eager for the next mystery already. And Josh O'Connor, as I said, incredible. I really love this one, and I wasn't expecting to from the first act, but man, the more I think on it, the more I actually appreciate what he did in the first act, and the last two acts I thought was absolutely incredible. It's a little bit slower, it's a little bit darker, it's not going to be for everybody, and I can honestly see some people saying that this is the weakest of them all. I did not think so at all. I really thoroughly like this one, so with all that said, I'm going to give Wake Up Dead Man a 4.5 out of 5. So much again, guys, for watching this. Hit that like and subscribe button. And of course, until next time, stay classy.